Hi, this is Victor Antonio with another episode of Victor's Inbox. Let's go inside my email and see what's in there. By the way, thank you for the questions. Please keep sending them. I always try to respond. If I haven't, please resend it. I will respond. So I had an interesting question, and this ties into one of my earlier videos where we talk about insight being the key phrase. Everybody talks about insight. You got to approach the customer and have some insight, information beyond the obvious. So the question is, Victor, a lot of talk about insight. Does that mean questions are no longer valid? Questions are always valid. I think the question he's really trying to ask me is, do questions still play a major role or a key role in the sales process? Well, the answer is yes, but what I think he's really asking me behind the question is, people keep talking about insight, approaching the customer with all this insight, new information to shift their paradigm. And I think you should always do that. But nonetheless, you're not going to know everything about a company. You're going to maybe know an approximation of everything they know. Now again, the goal is to know just as much, if not more. But in reality, sometimes the information isn't public. Let's say it's not a public company. It's a non-public company, rather. In other words, they don't have an annual report. They don't have, let's say, a 10K or a 10Q. There's no really real way of knowing a lot about the company. So are you going to have to ask questions? Yes. Because there's no other place to get the data. So questions will always be key. They just have to be used strategically. What I always tell people is that if you're going to use questions, again, be wise in the number of questions you use, but more importantly, in the quality of the questions. And one way I teach to go about actually developing questions is this. Figure out what you're selling. Let's call that the product. Once you know what the product is, I want you to produce, the second P, a list of great questions, both open and close-ended questions. Then the third P is polish them. So it's a product, produce the list, now polish the questions. In other words, refine the questions, make them more incisive, more insightful. Make them good questions, high-quality questions. And the last part is to what? Prioritize those questions. So when you're in there talking to a customer, make sure you're asking the essential questions up front. And again, combine those with open and closed questions. In other words, I try to use the 3-to-1 ratio if I can keep it in my head. 3 open questions, 1 close-ended question for confirmation when I really want to know something. So again, figure out your product, produce a list of questions, polish them to make sure they're very good questions, insightful and incisive questions, and then prioritize them so when you go in the meeting, you know what you're going to ask, when you're going to ask, and you look like a pro walking in. Remember, the average salesperson practices what to say. The best of the best people practice what to ask. Practice what to ask, but again, be prepared with your questions. So questions are still relevant, but again, use them strategically and not as your only tool when you go into a sales presentation. This is Victor Antonio with another episode of Victor's Inbox, reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care.